what we are going to discuss now is going to be something more, will be very close to what it was in the previous session. And after all, military diplomacy has assumed such large proportions in the last about 5, 6 years that I'm really seeing a number of port calls. I'm seeing a number of um, delegations that go abroad, led by our Prime Minister himself and our Defense Minister, and I think we are doing an excellent job over there. So then the question comes as to what does DAP has got to do with all this? So I think the DAP is a fundamental document which lays down the acquisition process of the Ministry of Defense. And I was, I think I need to bring this to the notice of everyone. The foreword itself begins with Atmanirbhar Bharat. The cover page talks about Atmanirbhar Bharat. The first line of the foreword is about Atmanirbhar Bharat. It gives a clarion call for Atmanirbhar Bharat to reach the USD 5 trillion economy by 2024. And then we have the DPEPP, the production policy, which is likely to come out very soon. And here we are again talking about 1,75,000 crores of production. Today we are about 60-70,000 crores, and we have I would say on one side somebody may consider it ambitious. On the other side, I'm seeing that it is fructifying in a very big way. And we are looking at an exports of 35,000 crores. All this will add to sort of, in some way, it's going to add to military diplomacy, and that's what our excellent panel is going to bring about. So we have a number of acquisition categories in terms of the buy Indian, buy and make, buy IDDM, and we've got all these things. And I think everyone is aware of that. I don't want to go into it. But what I want to focus here is two things. One is the entire concept of IDDM, Indian designed, developed, and manufactured. And the second is strategic partnership. And then the whole thing of make, innovation, IDEX, and all that, which actually adds flavor to the entire process, and which is actually leading the process many times, is also going to be talked about. We're going to talk about the indigenous content and how that affects Atmanirbhar and how that affects exports. And therefore, and of course, a very interesting question that I would have to the panel, I hope somebody covers that, is that do we have adequate budget to meet our needs? And one fundamental question I want to put across so that the panel is aware of it while they discuss is Atmanirbhar and the capability of Indian force, the capability to the Indian armed forces and Atmanirbharta by the Indian industry. What is the synergy? Where do we draw the line? And how do we want to proceed? So I think what we do is in about 40-45 minutes that we have, we will give about 5-10 minutes each to the speakers to open up with their remarks. And then I would like to pose a few questions and see if we can create some interest in this debate. To begin with, I would like to call upon none other than Mr. Anurag Bajpai, the Joint Secretary, who is in the forefront of the entire Atmanirbhar process. He is the one who is integrating with the industry. He is standing in front. He is bringing the industry capability together. He is creating capabilities in terms of capability matrix. He is the one who's leading the defense corridors initiative. He's the one who's going to come out with some excellent schemes that are going to change the landscape of the Indian industry. And without much ado, may I call upon Mr. Anurag Bajpai, Joint Secretary to the Government of India, to give his opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Colonel Kuber. Actually, I feel humbled by your words, by your appreciative words. Honorable Minister of State, Ministry of External Affairs and Culture, and eminent speaker of this international conference, dignitaries from Central Asia and my colleagues. Good evening to all of you. I really feel privileged to be part of this international conclave on India-Central Asia relations. As we all are aware, India is committed for expanding overall cooperation with Central Asian countries. During meeting with the foreign ministers of Central Asian countries in December 2021, as a part of India Central Asia dialogue, Honorable Prime Minister of India emphasized the importance that India attaches to its long-standing relations with Central Asian countries, also called them part of the extended neighborhood. There is an upswing in India's engagement with the region, followed by Honorable Prime Minister's visit of 5 CAR countries in July 2015 that resulted in the expansion of two-way ties in a range of areas. If we talk about defense sector specifically, there has been a satisfactory progress in defense segment among India and CAR countries in last few years. To give further impetus to defense cooperation with CAR countries, many agreements and MOUs have been signed with all those countries. To identify the possible areas of cooperation, defense cooperation webinar, seminar, and industrial visits are being conducted with Central Asian countries. Based upon the requirements, areas of joint production are also being explored by the defense companies from India and Central Asia. Since Central Asian countries and India are having the Russian origin defense equipment, and most of these equipment are due for upgradation. We know that Indian companies are capable of upgrading these existing equipment such as tanks, BMPs, etc. Possibility of setting up joint ventures are being explored towards maintaining these equipment in Central Asian countries. Apart from this, other areas such as electro-optical products, such as night vision devices, laser range finders, homeland security systems, simulators, body armors, arms and ammunitions are also being explored by defense industry. Now coming to the main theme of this session, that is DAP amendments. So as Colonel Kuber has set the context, you all may be aware about Make in India, the flagship initiative of our government, which cuts across all sectors, including defense and aerospace. Make in India for defense is not just about manufacturing in India or attracting investments. It is clearly aimed at creating niche defense industrial capabilities, thereby not only serving our military requirements, but the whole world and especially our friendly foreign nations. Developing new technologies, addressing futuristic requirements of our armed forces across all major defense domains will be key to India's self-reliance in defense sector. We are confident that seeds sown in recent times will fructify into tangible outcomes soon. Excuse me. As we know that India is emerging as a global defense manufacturing hub. Government of India is laying down policies to strengthen the defense production and R&D ecosystem in the country and creating a level playing field for private sector. I would be happy to inform that India's defense expenditure, if we see, it is third in the world after US and China. And India's military might is fourth in the world. And self-reliance in defense has become the cornerstone of India's defense production policy. As rightly pointed out by Colonel Kuber, the recent call for Atmanirbhar Bharat has proved an impetus to realize the goal of self-reliance. Over the years, particularly in last 4 or 5 years, transparent and streamlined procurement procedures, production policies, Make in India initiatives, and focus on innovation have provided significant stimulus to demand for indigenous products. If we see that India has also jumped in Global Innovation Index from somewhere 83 to 46. And India has also entered in the list of top 25 exporters in last few years. Two Indian companies, that is Hindustan Aeronautics Limited and Bharat Electronics Limited, have entered in the list of 100 top companies of the world. The size of defense industry, if we see, including aerospace and naval shipbuilding, it is currently estimated to be about 85,000 crore, while the contribution of public sector is 63,000 crore. But the private sector is also moving ahead, and it has almost reached to 17,000 crores. The existing 16 defense public sector undertakings, private sector industries, anchor industries, and the strong base of about 16,000 plus MSMEs has given a strong base to the Indian defense ecosystem. About 550 defense licenses have been issued to private companies for production of defense equipment in the past few years. Colonel Kuber has also referred about defense production and export promotion policy, which is proposed. It is at draft stage at present, and it is being positioned as Ministry of Defense's overarching guiding document to provide a focused, structured, and significant thrust to defense production capabilities of the country for self-reliance and exports. The major goal, as we all know, to achieve the turnover of 1,75,000 crore, including export of 35,000 crore in aerospace, naval, and defense goods and services by 2025. The actions which have been taken by Government of India, particularly which relate to defense acquisition procedure or overall policy, because defense acquisition procedure is a one document. But if we see in the context of overall policy, there are many actions which have been taken along with the formulation of defense acquisition procedure. DAP 2020 is one of the tools which gives or which provides the conducive regime to the industry. As we all know that many reforms have been added to the DPP 2016 and DAP 2020 have been brought to give a boost to Atmanirbhar Bharat. Preference is being given to buy Indian IDDM defense items, but the most important action which has been taken, that is the notification of 2 positive indigenization lists by Department of Military Affairs, where the import embargo has been put on from a fixed date. In addition to that, recently 2 more indigenization, 5 positive indigenization lists have been published from the DPSU side, which include 2,500 items which are to be indigenized and 351 items which have already been indigenized. This will actually bring the import substitution of about 3,000 crore. So the action towards indigenization and to provide the opportunity to our industry, the government is taking such actions which strengthens all these opportunities. Moreover, the make procedure has been simplified. We know make 1 was there, make 2 has been brought to give a boost to the industry with an assurance. Make 3 is also there, so that technology can be brought and it can be developed. The items can be developed here. Colonel Kuber has also referred about a strategic partnership model. Yes, it has. It has its positives which can bring which can boost the Indian defense industry. Government has also approved enhanced delegated financial powers under capital procurement to the levels below vice chief. In addition to these reforms in the DAP, other actions which the government has taken to boost the Indian defense ecosystem, defense industrial ecosystem, that is liberalization of FDI. Earlier, it was only 49% FDI which was permissible. Now it is 74% under automatic route. Even 100% is permitted through government route. So it is for the industry. Industry can bring the technology, they can establish partnerships, they can have joint ventures, and investment can be brought here in India. We may be aware that around 45 joint venture companies are already existing at present with the foreign investment. Innovation ecosystem. DIO, that is Defense Innovation Organization, has been established that is IDEX, and Government of India has brought a specific scheme this year of 500 crores, and it will support about 300 startups and develop 20 partner incubators in the next 4 or 5 years. It is a dedicated scheme. Moreover, the prototypes which have been developed through IDEX, the government has already announced, you all may be aware, that 1,000 crores were earmarked during the current financial year. In addition to this, government has also set aside the budget for domestic procurement, that is more than 64%, which earlier used to be about 50, 55% or 57%. This year it has crossed 64%. And out of that, more than 15% has been also kept for the procurement from the domestic industries. So these are all positive actions which the government has taken along with the defense acquisition, amendment in the defense acquisition procedures. For the offset discharge, offset policy, offset portal has been developed. It is a transparent system now. Moreover, recently I have been told that 2-3 more modifications have been brought to make it easier for the FOEMs, foreign OEMs, to discharge the offset obligations. And that is again online. Government has also established 2 defense industrial corridors. We all know that is in Uttar Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. The aerospace and defense policies notified by the 2 state governments are major enabler for the industry to invest in the defense corridors. Even a DTIC scheme, if I say, that is testing facilities available with the government, has been opened to the private sector, and under DTIC scheme, such testing infrastructure are also being created. Now the private industry can move along, along with the public sector undertakings. It is government is supporting both the private and public, both sectors, and government wants them to grow together. The equal support is being given to both of them. In addition to it, if we see, to promote Indian defense exports, the processes have been simplified. It is always done in consultation with industry. Wherever the industry finds any problem or any issue, that is resolved. It is completely online. Online authorizations are issued. And you all may be aware that in case of parts and components, the number of days has reduced from 33 to 12. And in case of systems or the platforms, it has reduced from 83 to 33 days. The export authorizations are issued in such a short time. And if we see the numbers of authorizations which have increased in the last few years, Every year it is increasing. And if I mention the number of for the current year, this number the number of last year, that was 925, we have almost reached this year in the third quarter itself. So we are actually issuing more number of authorizations, but certainly one concern is there: the value of export is not increasing, to that level. The number of authorizations are increasing, but the value of export is not to that level. So that is a point of concern for the government. Export promotion cell has been established, and defense investor cell has also been established, which are working with the industry. They are providing all kind of support. So it is not only the defense acquisition procedure. I would mention that defense acquisition procedure is one tool. There are other tools which have also been brought by the government to support the industry, and it is particularly private industry. Now government is also considering the industry-led R&D to support the industry-led R&D. And that is one of the main agenda of the government, because if the defense sector requires the research and development tremendously, to reach to the level, if we aspire to reach to the level of US or France or such countries who are major in the defense sector. So such kind of actions are being taken by the government, and I believe that opportunities are being availed by the industry, and if there are issues being faced by the industry, certainly government is available, officers are available in the Department of Defense Production. I believe that the actions taken by the country would prove as major enablers and opportunities for defense industry of India, and also from the other countries will provide will will enable the other industry to come to the Indian market. And I am confident that with this focused approach, defense sector in India is poised to take a leap forward and on the path of marching steadily from Make in India to Make for the World. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that elaborate. You covered almost all the topics. I mean, not because after all, DAP is not the only enabler. You talked about exports, you talked about the corridors, you talked about the export licenses, you talked about export promotion, you talked about innovations, you talked about IDEX, you talked about, I mean, I think the industry, funding of the private industry or funding of industry for R&D, I think that's a very great idea. This has been wanted by the industry for a long time. So, gentlemen on the panel, with your permission, what I intend to do is, rather than we'll just go in for a little debate on various aspects that have been brought out by the Joint Secretary. And I think I want to begin with this whole concept of liberalization of the FDI, 49 to 74. At one point in time, it was also 26. And so let me take the views of Commodore Bhargav, who's been a mentor, and he's been on various committees, the Kelkar committee onwards, when we have been interacting with each other from 2004, 5, and all that. So I think, what do you think, Commodore Bhargav? Is it a good thing that we are increasing the FDI in the defense sector?
Thank you, Colonel Kuber, and let me compliment Mr. Anurag Bajpai for such a comprehensive coverage for the DAP and the various initiatives that the government has taken. I think the industry is looking at it as a watershed event, the DAP 2020, and whenever the DPEPP 2020 gets published, looking at it, the positivity that it is brought out, and mainly bringing the focus on the Make in India, the Atmanirbhar Bharat, the self-reliance, and promotion of the private sector. I must compliment Mr. Bajpai for the R&D that you have said needs to be promoted in the private sector, and I'm sure that that would be a huge enabler going forward. Now, coming to Kuber, your question with regard to the FDI. I have got a little different view, and maybe since I've been in this field for so many years, I have noticed that it is never the percentage of FDI, which is what was being looked at. Well, my good friend uh, Blair is over here, and probably he would be in a better position to comment on that. But I would share my personal views on this. Even when we had 26% FDI and there was a lot of demand for it to be increased to 49, when we reached 49, we did have a few JVs getting formed, but unfortunately, we did not get uh, the impetus that we were looking at from 26 to 49. When we moved from 49 to 74, I have, though Mr. Bajpai has mentioned about the 44 JVs have been formed, but it is not the JV, and it is not, I don't think the industry is looking for funding from the foreign companies to come in over here for us. We have enough money. What the industry really needs is the orders for them to take that leap, what is really needed. We don't need dollars to really make manufacturing or technology development to happen. Definitely there would be gaps in our capability, whether it is for the MRL level, the manufacturing readiness level, or the TRL level, the technology readiness level. But those are very, very small gaps. And for that, I don't think FDI is really going to be making that kind of a difference. And maybe Bill would stand by me that it is not really the FDI which will bring in those technologies or those capabilities, because the industry in the last decade and a half has moved forward and has made upfront investments. And I'm sure Mr. Bajpai is aware of companies like Larsen and Toubro created a whole shipyard, spending thousands of crores. We didn't require a single dollar from FDI for creating that infrastructure. We have created the entire armored system complex for the K9 Vajra. We didn't require any dollars for that. That was created by our own shareholders' money. And the industry, therefore, is not looking for really FDI to move up on the capability or infrastructure development. What we need is more orders. And I think the SP and the just 30 seconds more, Kuber, before I cover up this point. And I'm very happy that Mr. Bajpai mentioned about industry. The government is looking for promoting R&D in the industry. The way to do that is there are two categories which have been there. The strategic partnership model being there in DAP, DPP 2016. We have been there for nearly 5 years now. We need to see that more and more programs should come. The first program of submarine is started, but we need to see that there are at least 5 or 10 programs coming, which will actually bring in the R&D that is what is being looked at. And the second category, which has been there in the DPP right from 2005 onwards, is the Make One category. And we still, after 15 years, have not have a single program going ahead, though there are 3 or 4 programs that have been started on that. So if we push these programs, the industry would take that, bull by its horn and move forward. We can promise you that, sir. Thank you, Kuber.
Thank you, Kuber. Actually, you brought out that, that industry does not require a single dollar, but that's fine for large companies. I do not know if it is the same which the small and medium companies would echo the same sentiment. I'm not sure of that. But I'm going to, since he talked about the strategic partnership, I'm going to come to you, Ashok Wadhawan, and I want you to comment on the strategic partnerships and the DCPP model. But before that, because I want to keep the theme of the FDI going, and here is where, Bill, I wanted to ask you this question. You see, in the US, for example, you've got the BAE Systems US, you've got Airbus US. I find Australia has got Lockheed Australia, Boeing Australia, Thales Australia, Thales US. And then you seem to be living in a very good harmony in the US. And also, I want to just gently nudge you on the indigenous percentage on your F-16 when you started in the 1980s. And where are you today? And what is that we can pick up for, because on one side, I find the government says, come make in India. I'm increasing it to 74%. And on the other side, they say, no, you are not eligible in this category. You're not eligible in that category. So I do not know how you look at it from an OEM point of view. Bill.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Colonel Kuber. It's great to see you, and Mukesh, and of course, Minister Bajpai, great to see you as well. first off, I'd like to follow on what Mukesh commented on. And, when we set up our two joint ventures in India for Lockheed Martin, first one with Tata Lockheed Martin Aerostructures Limited to build C-130Js about 11 years ago now. And then the second one was Sikorsky was a part of UTC at the time. Also over 10 years ago, set up a joint venture to produce helicopter components and S-92 helicopter cabins. And so in both cases, they created those because the business case made sense. One, in terms of the efficiency that we could gain, it would position us, to produce in India to meet India requirements longer term. And I think we realized that actually quite effectively, and it was very much a part of building up a aerospace and defense ecosystem that we felt was critically important to position to be successful to win on the MMRCA campaign. Of course, we were delivering C-130Js to meet the Indian Air Force requirement, and it was instrumental in making that investment, and we leveraged that investment to also meet our offset obligations, which were completing on time within our period of performance. So, that was the concept. So whether it was 26% or 49%, I agree with Mukesh. I think it was the right business case, and you find a trusted partner. And I think that's proven to be very effective. And frankly, offsets were a catalyst. Supporting that. They weren't ultimately the impetus in the beginning, but it allowed for us to create that ecosystem and to then grow our indigenous content from, importing parts to now over 90% indigenous content on both the empennage and the S-92 cabin. So I think that's important to set that foundation up front in terms of awareness. Now, to your question, whether it's an F-16 or an F-35 aircraft, but I know you're citing the F-16 and going back many decades. Ultimately, an aircraft is an integration of systems, and yes, there's an aerostructure associated with it, but there's many systems that have to come together as part of that aircraft. So you have many partners, and frankly, international partners. And so the model, let's say for the F-35. And other models that I've worked in, say aircraft engines, you want to find international partners to be part of that integrated system that you're offering, because for market access, various countries are going to expect to have a share in that program. So I think it's natural where you require aircraft engines, avionics, electro-optical systems, missile systems. You're going to see how you can integrate the best capability to deliver what the customer requires to have a competitive edge against a threat, while also having an industrial development strategy that's going to bring together the most effective aircraft. So I don't have a firm answer for how that evolved over decades, but what I can say is you can see the consolidation that happened in the aerospace and defense companies and industrial area over the last many decades, but at the same time, the federation of how you integrate systems from multiple companies to meet that requirement. So let's fast forward and think about it under the DAP 2020, and how would we integrate an aircraft to meet a multi-role fighter aircraft requirement, or helicopter, a naval utility helicopter requirement? We'd look through it very much in the same way. We want to meet whatever the policy drives towards indigenous content, and do that with local partners, whether they're large and also MSMEs, and frankly, even startups, to bring together, an integrated platform system capabilities that's going to be competitive, L1, technically acceptable, and as in more importantly, I think, have a sustainment solution that ensures that we can meet that here in India. So I hope that answers your question, but it has to be a holistic view. You have to integrate many companies, and we can do that, I think, very much in an inclusive way. Last point on that is, as we integrate, say, tier one suppliers on an F-21 that we would offer, whether it's engines, avionics, other systems, we're working with those tier ones to encourage them to engage Indian suppliers, partners, make those investments so they're increasing the indigenous content as part of that integrated platform system.
Thank you, Bill. I think I really know your initiative, the way you've been engaging with small and medium companies as well. I think you've got more than about 120 small and medium companies working along with you with part of the supply chain. and also, the way you've been hand-holding and taking them forward. Two things have been mentioned. Commodore Bhargav talked about give me orders. I don't want policies, I want orders. And
No, I want
second
policies
thing is,
also.
yeah, fine. No. I don't mean to misrepresent you. Idea is we should get orders.
Yes.
The second is we did talk about, and I lost my chain of thought. So the JVs. So Adani Group, for example, has always stepped in when there was a national emergency, a national requirement, whether it was in the in the agri sector, whether it was in the oil, whether it was in energy. So and I think you made a very strategic entry into the defense sector about 3-4 years ago. So Ashok, can you talk about, you're also successful. You got some excellent JVs and you have great experience in running JVs. And give me orders, JVs, FDI. You got an excellent facility over there in Hyderabad, and you're doing the Hermes 900, the male UAVs. So can you talk a little bit about these in terms of how we can leverage all this towards one, Atmanirbhar, second, exports, and third is how do we look at the CIS countries?
Thank you, Colonel Kuber. And a really good presentation by Shri Anurag Bajpai. I think he covered everything. We were going to be speaking about DAP, but he covered the whole thing. Let me just start by saying you're absolutely correct. The whole procurement process of defense has gone a lot of change. And the most important piece of change is not just the procedures. It's actually, I would say, starting from engagement. Where now we have Shri Anurag Bajpai coming and making a presentation and making a marketing presentation on what MOD has done. When we started 8 years back, getting an appointment with his predecessor would take us a couple of months to actually get it. So that's the biggest change which has happened. And being proactive and saying, okay, Atmanirbhar, defense is an important piece of Atmanirbhar from Prime Minister's talk going down to the level. That is the biggest change which we see who have been in this field for a long period of time. So it's not just the procedure which is coming in, and I'm sure the procedure is going to change and streamline more, like the export process which is done, because we are exporting and we've been exporting for so many years. The first export, it'll be surprising. We were one of the first to take an experience. It took me months to take an experience. It came probably 3 to 4 days sometimes. Overnight also it's given because it's the last of the month and we need to do it and we get it. So yes, MOD has come a long way. The whole defense manufacturing in India has come a long way because of the push which MOD is giving. Coming back to how we need to change, and starting from FDI, yes, we've got into joint ventures. My friend Mukesh Bhargav was saying that we don't need the funding for the large groups, but what we need and why we need the joint ventures to come in and why we've been successful is when we ask a partner to come in as a joint venture partner, the skin and the game of the partner is there because he feels that it is his organization and he needs to actually develop it. So that's one of the reasons why we have gone into joint ventures, because when we were developing new technology coming into our country, be it the UAVs or be it the small arms or be it looking at air defense gun, we want, or ammunition, which is a new kind of ammunition, which the patents lie somewhere else. When we come with a joint venture, the joint venture, they have given the patents to a joint venture to not just produce in India. So is where the whole FDI policy helps us, not because we get the money which is there, which is small because we don't need it, but yes, when the skin in the game and the partnership improves from being a joint venture partner, that helps us to do it. How do we take it forward? I think the strategic partnership which you mentioned, I think is a very, very important piece for the private sector. I think that is something which, as private sector, we have been pushing. And we were very happy that that was introduced in the procedures, though it's not fructified as much as it is. I would request that be taken as the center point to take it forward, because what it does is it makes the private sector as equivalent to a public sector. We may push it under the carpet, but private sector, public sector still have a lot of differences, and that is one of the reasons strategic partnership was kept separately from the public sector review. It was basically meant for the private sector to get in to those product lines and develop it. And that is one thing I think from the whole now should be taken in, and we are really wanting that to see the light of the day. The orders obviously are important, but when we get, say, for example, an aircraft manufacturing which comes in and a private sector comes in with HAL, which is already there and existing, ecosystem would develop. There will be medium and small scale sector which would come in, and it would change the whole perspective of that product line, I would say. So that is something which we are extremely keen in doing it. Export opening up is really, really good, because we were dependent only on the government of India, which was one customer. Today we have exports coming in, and the push which is happening in CIS countries or in the neighbors where line of credits are available, and the domestic products are being taken in, not just from the public sector but private sector, and presented to and saying that these are products available. Now those are things which would even take it to a different level, because if we want to reach defense manufacturing in the way US does, when the premier of US comes in, or premier of France comes in, or premier of Israel comes in, they are the marketing people, and then when they take those products in, they're not just with private sector, public sector, with the product lines of private sector also. It's considered as one ecosystem which is there. I think that is the other thing which would help. Even few of us start getting orders on the line of credit and saying that's where the government of India has pushed our products. You will see not just the perception, everything down the line is going to change and say, yes, the private sector or the defense manufacturing has actually arrived in the country. And frankly speaking, with the kind of purchasing we do, we need a good ecosystem which exists for defense manufacturing, and it could become the cornerstone of Atmanirbhar and Make in India and manufacturing for our country.
Well, that's good, Ashok. You should convey our compliments to Ashish also for putting in such an excellent company down there and bringing all this. And I'm happy that when you started, you said 8 months. I was thinking that Mr. Bajpai is going to come with a danda now, but then you made it 3 days. I think it looks good. So I think there has been an improvement between 8 months and 3 days. The first time you went for an export license, and I picked up, because Mr. Bajpai, the Joint Secretary, had talked about the initiatives that we are taking with the CIS countries. I picked up some statistics. For example, Chapter 88, to the CIS countries, we are exporting close to $78 million. And it has come to about $448 million in 2020. 78 million in about 2016 to about $448 million in 2020. 93 chapter, which is arms and ammunition, is almost nil. 85, I just picked up because it's all about machinery. So 8526, for example, if I pick up, 8526 is all about radars. And it was about $821 million in 2016. And today it's about $1 billion, 1.048 billion. Surprisingly, when I see 8411, for example, turbojets and turbo propellers, gas turbines, the heavy engineering like the LNTs and all do, it's about $1.9 billion in 2016 and 2.5 billion about 2020. 8401 nuclear reactors, 1.3 about $1.3 billion. 8905, which are the light vessels, again of interest to the likes of LNT, the dredgers, floating cranes, is about $300 odd million. Motor cars, Tata Motors, Ashok Leyland, and all this, $1.5 billion to about 2. Iron and steel, we have been importing about $6.9 billion. So I want to ask the Joint Secretary, Mr. Bajpai, you see, there is a great initiative that you've taken in terms of enhancing the exports. What are your one or two expectations from the Indian industry and the foreign industry, and what do you really see 2-3 years hence?
You have mentioned about CIS countries where LOCs have also been extended. What issue which I have observed whenever we have reviewed such LOCs, that Indian industry, first of all, the capability. There is a question from the countries, respective countries, that is on the capability. Whether the capability exists within an industry, that is number one, which we have faced. Number two, the cost. Many times the respective countries have mentioned about the cost of Indian products. So that cost competitiveness, perhaps that is a crucial point where we need to work. The Indian industry has to work. As regards, means foreign industry, foreign OEMs, certainly means some from Adani, Mr. Wadhawan has mentioned about that, yes, joint ventures are necessary, what I feel, because it is not only, it is, and Mr. Bhargav, Commodore Bhargav has also mentioned, but he said that, yes, we don't need funds, but we need technology. And we need technology absorption. That is important. So we are having capabilities. We may be having capabilities, but if the correct technology is not with us, certainly we need to develop those partnerships, and we have to go for such kind of joint ventures. And after that, the absorption is more important. It should not become that the technology comes and we just start manufacturing and exporting or selling. That should not happen. That absorption should be there. So I think the absorption of technology, that is important, and the cost competitiveness, which I have seen many times, even in case of public sector, I am facing that challenge. We are facing that challenge with many countries, not only CIS countries, but the cost competitiveness. On that ground, many countries are rejecting the proposals. So that these are the two important issues which I have observed so far in the last 1 year. Maybe there may be other issues which may not be coming to my mind, but yes, these two issues, important issues, are with.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that. Absorption and cost competition. I think cost will happen when we are able to amortize, and absorption, yes, Indian industry is doing very well. I can see Commodore Mukesh Bhargav wants to speak, but I see that the Honorable Minister of State, Meenakshi Lekhi, has already joined in. And if you were to give one concluding comment, each one of you, to the Joint Secretary, to all of us, say, William Blair, what do you think should be that one or two things that you would like to tell the procurement executive for enhancing exports? Just one line, let's conclude it by 6. We got 4 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's moving forward with the Indian requirements. With that, whether it's strategic partner model or buy global, make in India, we as a foreign OEM are investing and driving transfer of technology into India to meet or exceed the requirements, which will then also translate to exports. So I think there is a cascade that can occur that's going to open up as these requirements, whether it's the MRFA or the NUH or many of the other major platform requirements for the Indian Air Force, Navy, and Army. I think it's truly a catalyst both for self-reliant India as well as exports.
I know the MRFA, your fighter systems, structure systems, GE is international. The way you've been pushing it, and major strategic partners, you talked about international partners. Ashok, your concluding statement, please.
Yeah, I would say there are two most important things for us to do it. One is, there are a lot of orders which get stuck after all the trials happen, and it gets stuck in MOD, and that's where there's more engagement which is required to get it pushed to get foreclosures, because once they start closing, or a couple more orders which come in, like Mr. Bhargav said, they come into the private sector, the manufacturing environment would improve, exports would come in. And the second, like I said, there are line of credits which are given, and it's very, very important our defense production team, MOD team pushes couple of private sector and make sure that those gets closed under the line of credit, which is going to different export markets. Once these two happen, once the orders will come in, as well as the perception will change, that and the manufacturing would develop. So I think these are two most important things which can be pushed.
Commodore Bhargav, sir, we got just 2 minutes to close the session. Yeah.
Thank you, Colonel Kuber. With regard to the technology absorption, just to comment on what Joint Secretary mentioned, I would like to give the example of the K9 Vajra. We started with just about 20-25% indigenous content, and within just 100 guns in 2 years' time, we have reached a level of 75% indigenization and technology absorption. We can do 100% also, but it's not cost effective. As far as the being cost effective part is concerned, sir, there are parts which were originally supposed to be coming from Korean, but it was the Koreans felt that it can be done cheaper over here because of the technology, because of the industry 4.0 which we were using, and also because of the labor arbitrage. So that is as far as these two parts is concerned. As far as the export is concerned, I would like to mention that whatever in the last couple of years, the 7 times export that we could achieve was primarily because of the private sector. We can do that even more. And again, I would like to re-emphasize what I said in my opening statement. If you want to really build up a defense industrial base, you need to go in for manufacturing of the full platforms, because that creates the complete ecosystem from tier 4, tier 3, tier 2 to tier 1. If you keep on giving part and subsystems, you will never have that ecosystem getting created. And we have in the policy both these categories under the Make One and the SP model. Operationalize them, get more and more programs under this. Your defense industrial base will get created, and once we have a defense industrial base created, we would also be able to export. Other than Israel, there is no other country who's been able to export products which their own armed forces don't buy. I have been heading the export myself, the international business, and number of times we have gone to the country we have not been able to achieve because they said your own country is not buying this equipment. So this would be my recommendation. And line of credit, definitely a lot is being done. There is ministries whose LOCs are getting expired. Maybe if we have opportunity, you can go through the PMO and ask for those funds also to be given to MOD, so that we can have the private sector really putting their the shoulder to the wheel to move the export farther. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sirs. I mean, this has been an excellent session. I think Mr. Anurag Bajpai took the center show, and he brought about how and gave us. And actually, I must tell you that we've had some very close moments. We have had some moments with concern, some moments hot, some moments cold. But then, yes, we've been driving a lot of things. I mean, in fact, he's been driving the entire corridor. He's been driving the schemes. He's driving exports. He's driving licenses. I mean, I don't know how he's managing to do all that. And I think these 2-3 things have come out. One is the strategic partnership model. I think it should be reserved only to the private industry. And there is no place for the public industry in this because we already have some reserved programs for public sector, and therefore we should not. Or absolutely open everything. There should be no reservations at all. That is one. Orders. We should not stop at orders, because of late we have been hearing in the news some programs are being chopped off, something is not there, and we have a DAP, we have an LTIPP, we have a SCAB, we have an AAP. We have gone through the whole process, and suddenly somebody decides, no, this program is not required today. I think we've been hearing it in the news. I think we should put such speculation to a halt, and absorption of technology. Commodore Bhargav brought out, in fact, L&T. I always say this, I want to say it again. L&T has never, ever delivered any system in time. And they've always delivered it before time. So, that is what we want to bring about. That is the spirit that we want to bring about. That is the spirit in the Indian industry. Mr. Bajpai sir, Commodore Mukesh Bhargav, Bill Blair, the international expert. You've been in GE, you've been in Raytheon, you've been across so many countries. You've seen so much. It's been so nice having you here. Ashok Wadhawan, the man who actually made the PLR work, and he is the man with the Sten gun in his hand. And I think it's been an excellent session. Thank you very much. Thank you.